Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well today. In this video, we are going over the August monthly report for 2025 with all the big feature and ship updates that you all know and love, as well as a couple medical gameplay changes that should be arriving in the very near future. Now, before we get into it, I want to say thank you so much for 2,000 subscribers. We actually hit this on my birthday, and I could not think of a better birthday gift. I really do want to say thank you to everyone that supports the channel anyway by viewing the videos, subscribing, joining the community Discord. It really doesn't matter what it is, it all means the absolute world to me, and I cannot wait to keep growing this channel with every single one of you. So, again, thank you so very much for being here and sticking around. It really does mean the world to me. With that out of the way, though, let's get into the August monthly report for 2025. As you might know, we typically skip through the AI section of the monthly reports just because we want to really get into the highlights of the monthly report. So, starting off with the animation team first worked on improvements to the Copion as well as a new creature, which is always nice to hear. And then the big thing here is they also created assets for the upcoming med gel dispenser and made a pass on death reactions to ensure they appear as expected. Now, I will throw up on screen what I believe the Medgel dispenser is, but before we get too deep into the medical gameplay talk, we're actually going to wait a little bit because there is some more information later in the monthly report. Now, past that, the rest of the animation team is really just working on the normal narrative mocap stuff that they usually do. Nothing too crazy as far as I'm concerned. For the character art team progressed with armor for a new gang and supported requests for subscriber flare items and CitizenCon Direct. They also continued to work on variants for gameplay rewards and store items. And then the concept art team started the exploration phase for a new heavy armor. Nothing crazy here. I think it's worth noting that they aren't working on Starware debt. At least we haven't seen that in the past few monthly reports. So that is a big thing, I suppose. But that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get it in our hands anytime soon, unfortunately. Now, starting it off with the ship art team, this is going to have some good news and some bad news. First thing here is that the UK team worked on three unannounced ships that are all in various stages of development. The Anvil Paladin progressed into the Laud Zero phase, which has actually a really nice screenshot to go alongside it. Honestly, it looks really, really good. I'm super surprised this is making so much progress and probably will release within the next few months. The Kruger L21 Wolf was released, as we know, and now for some of the bad news. The Drake Ironclad and Ironclad Assault progressed toward their white box reviews, with the team finalizing the asset kit that will be used across this and other Drake ships. Now, this is obviously disappointing because the Drake Ironclad has actually been in white box for quite some time at this point. I'm not entirely sure what is taking them so long. Maybe they wanted to go with the Ironclad Assault at the same time. They wanted to work on them at the same time. Not entirely sure, but at this point, I would assume that the Ironclads are probably an Invictus 2026 release rather than 2025. I know it kind of sucks to hear, but at the very least, we're going to get probably both of the Ironclads within a reasonable time period, which personally I am really excited about because I love the Ironclad Assault. To have some better news, though, the RSI Roar and Aegis Hammerhead kicked off them being brought up to gold standard, or the current standard, which I think is really, really good. The Mist Hull B entered pre production following the approval of its updated concept. If you're a cargo fan, I'm sure that is some good news for you. And then we have, of course, the Apollos that are being finished and ready for release. They also tease supporting the gameplay teams with medical gameplay adjustments. And I think it's very interesting that right after that, some of the team then moved on to a related but unannounced ship. So, not entirely sure what that is. If you have any guesses, feel free to leave it down below. But I'm definitely not too sure what that one is talking about. Then, of course, we have the RSI Perseus prepared for its Law Zero Gate review with additional lighting and detail passes being done across both the interior and exterior. And there's a nice picture to go alongside it to show the elevator shaft Perseus has. And then the Drake Kraken's pre production phase continued as well. I think that thing is going to be in pre production for a while here, but it's good to see that they're at least still mentioning it in the monthly reports. All right, now moving into the core gameplay section, this is going to be a pretty exciting one. The big thing here at the start is that the team focus continued to work on the freight elevators with further fixes to the issues that put them into an unusable state, as well as improvements to the debug tooling. And they're continuing to look at a large range of other widely reported issues, such as unreliable medical beacons and physics exploits. I know them talking about it doesn't do much for the actual issues themselves, but I am glad that they are mentioning it to show that they are at least working on them. So I appreciate that at the very least. Improvements to medical ship functionality are in progress, including the addition of MedGel, which we talked about before, which will be required to allow respawning. This will further differentiate the utility of the various medical vehicles in the game. These improvements are also prompted some general improvements to the respawn flow. I think this is going to be a great change and a first start to some medical gameplay changes. I don't necessarily think it's going to be the biggest of deals in terms of how the medical kind of flow is for medics that want to go out and heal people and whatnot. I actually don't think there's going to be much change at all to how you do your job, but the way you respawn and the resources you're going to need to actually kind of supply your med beds is going to be a big deal, and I am excited for that at the very least, even if it's not the most groundbreaking changes we've seen so far. Now, after that, we have the devs are working to close out the functionality required to support a new creature's unique behaviors and attack moves. I have no idea what that's talking about necessarily. Honestly, my guess is that it's a Vandal for the 4.3.1 patch. I know it's kind of crazy to say, but I just have this really weird suspicion that there's going to be some boss fight at the end of the next patch, and that's going to be some sort of vandal of sorts, or like a hybrid of a vandal and a human. I don't know. We'll see, but that's just my guess. I know it might be a little silly, but you never know at this point. Next thing here is the fact that the engineering screen was then updated to show the rate of heat change for components and fix various bugs. Again, engineering looks like it's getting so much great progress. We just simply do not have it in tech preview yet. This is something that they talked about last month that they were getting ready for tech preview. So I don't really know what's going on, but I really hope that within the next couple weeks we see something about it because I think a lot of people are super excited for that. For item recovery, the team added the ability to disable components for ships that have been claimed. Additionally, items will now display a timer until they become bricked after they've been claimed by the original owner. This is also displayed to the player as part of a notification when an item is bricked and a player attempts to use it. I still don't know how to feel about the item recovery system. It sounds like they're really trying to do something here, and hopefully they have this vision for it that I just really can't see quite yet. But at the moment, it's still something that sounds a little bit unappealing to me. Maybe I'm just kind of wrong about this, and it's going to be a great system, but still kind of confused as to whether or not I'm going to like the item recovery system. We'll find that out once we get it in game, but I would love to hear your thoughts if you're excited for it or if you are also a little worried about it. Now, for crafting, the team implemented an offline version of the Blueprint service, which is used as a stand in to support the player bound Blueprint library until the actual service starts development. They also finished the first playable prototype of crafting in a multiplayer environment. This is really great news, in my opinion. I honestly cannot wait for crafting in this game as well as obviously base building, but crafting is just going to be one of those big things that finally adds just a bit more depth to what we do in the verse, and I am so excited for that. Now, for control surfaces, something I also love, improvements to the aerodynamic simulation were implemented, which should address jittering observed at low frame rates. Support for geolimiter was added to the new atmospheric flight model, and NPCs now fly using control surfaces when in atmosphere. Internally, the team integrated the necessary work from Squadron 42 to conduct an internal playtest with various changes. These, in turn, prompted additional tuning improvements and bug fixes. And then we have IFCS saw further support work for Maelstrom. Destroyed parts will now reduce thrust effectiveness, which also addresses a common exploit where non critical ship parts are destroyed to improve acceleration. This also helps the design team in better defining when a ship is considered inoperable, even when not fully destroyed. I think this is interesting. I think some people before thought that that was going to be something they could do where they could just like destroy parts off their Gladius or something and then just go super freaking fast. Of course, that doesn't seem like it's happening anymore, but interesting how they did make that change before it was even released. Next thing here might be controversial to some. I think it could be cool, but cockpit dashboards will now support the ability to physically animate and vibrate based on various factors, adding another level of fidelity and realism. Examples of triggers include spaceships shooting their weapons or maneuvering at high angles of attack. This could be one of those cool things that's like, awesome, that looks really cool and it makes me feel immersed. Or it could be really annoying because you can't really read things and it happens too often or something like that. I'm excited to see it, but I know that there could definitely be some issues here. For quantum travel, the team worked on various bug fix and polish tasks, such as NPCs not being able to perform solo jumps. Again, just desperately waiting for that updated quantum travel system. Quantum interdiction saw some further improvements to address the reliability of the system, especially in situations where new quantum interdiction fields appear or disappear after the initial jump has been initiated. Interdicted ships will also now have markers on them to make them more obvious to players who are performing the interdiction. Turret weapons are now prevented from firing when aiming at the host vehicle. This will reduce the need for complex turret angle maps, which have caused turrets to aim up and down erratically as players rotate it around. I think this could be a really good change, but we'll have to see how it is in game. For radar and scanning, the team worked on various improvements and polish tasks, such as improved UI information about targets and better positioning of the scan information for very large targets. Just like this in the quantum travel system and engineering, it sounds like they are just doing polish. So, really, really hope that we see these things in the near future. Probably we are going to see them at CitizenCon, but in game would be the best option. And then we have the inventory rework is progressing well too, with the team implementing proximity looting, which allows players to loot from multiple nearby inventory containers simultaneously. The new UI has also had filters and search implemented. That's always great to hear. They're showing the same exact picture from the initial inventory concept picture, so nothing too crazy to see. For the economy team, last month the economy team progressed with the new iteration of the economy based on data they recently gathered. They're currently looking into changes to the buy and sell prices of FPS weapons, armor, and consumables. They're also updating profit margins for salvage vehicles, including components, and the effort versus reward algorithm. And the big thing here is that this is being done as part of an ongoing initiative to ensure crafting is profitable, revitalize the salvage of vehicle components, and prevent exploits. I think this is all great news, but again, it really is just talk. I really hope we can see this stuff in game pretty soon. Now, that is really going to do it for the August monthly report, mainly just the highlights of the report, the stuff that is the most exciting. I know for these reports, it can be a little frustrating because they talk about all these big features and systems, and then we just don't see them or hear about them very often. And I honestly am just looking forward to seeing some more progress feature wise. I know that again they talked about engineering last month, getting ready for tech preview. We still have not heard anything about that, so that definitely kind of sucks. But I'm really hoping that in the next few weeks we can get our hands on that, if not around the CitizenCon time. So I know it's kind of a slow point for Star Citizen. Just hang in there. We're about to get the Apollos, some updates, some medical gameplay, and then we will get our very lovely yearly CitizenCon, which I'm sure will be very, very exciting. Again, thank you so much for 2,000 subscribers. I cannot say it enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really do hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.